Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Ken Goldman. I'm the communications lead for the Integrated Award Environment, and we've got a good program for you today for what is our 8th Industry Day program that we've put on so far. So I want to welcome everybody to the conversation today. And just as a quick reminder, if you are listening in on the phone, please mute your phone. There is some noise in the background, so we want to make sure that the presenters and the speakers can be heard loud and clearly. So welcome today. We look forward to a dialogue with you today, as all of our industry days have been. This is a conversation between you, our interested stakeholders, and us. We certainly do not view this as a one-way conversation. With that in mind, throughout the presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions by using the chat log on the Adobe Connect. As you type in questions, we'll be capturing those, and we're going to save the Q&A portion for the very end of the program. And we'll try to get to as many of your questions as possible, but along with the rest of the materials, we'll be posting answers to your questions on our Interact site. If you want the deck from today's presentation, you can select it here on the Adobe Connect by selecting Files and then downloading that file. And again, after the presentation, we will post it on Interact along with the Q&As and any other related documents coming from today's presentation. As always, you can contact us anytime you want at iaeoutreach@gsa.gov. So for today's presenters, first I'm going to turn it over to Eric Ferraro. Eric is our new Assistant Commissioner here in the Federal Acquisition Service, and he's with us in the Integrated Award Environment. He'll be giving you a sense of what IAE is up to and where he comes from. And then Emily Gartland, she is our User Experience Product Owner. She will be walking you through today's program. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Ferraro.
Thank you, Ken. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Eric Ferraro, and I joined the Office of the Integrated Award Environment in July of 2015 to oversee both IAE's operations and modernization, as well as the Common Acquisition Platform Program Office, which you may know as CAP. Prior to joining IAE, I spent 9 years at the Department of the Navy as the project director for the Navy's e-business systems. Before my time at the Navy, I worked at IBM and PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I supported the Navy's standard procurement system implementation and operations. Given that experience and all my gray hair in the photo that you see there, it probably comes as nice to you that I'm also a Navy veteran, having served as a Supply Corps officer for 20 years. I'm very excited to have joined GSA and IAE when the program is undertaking the important work of modernizing our systems, and I look forward to getting to know all of our stakeholders as I settle into my new role. I'm happy to be part of my first Industry Day event today. Here at IAE, we think it's extremely important to have an open dialogue with all of our stakeholders, particularly those in industry. Through our 7 previous Industry Day events, we found this forum to be a great way to share updates on IAE's work and answer your questions. So far, we've reached more than 1,000 participants and 400 companies, and are happy to have had the opportunity to answer more than 80 of your questions during these events. Industry Days are just one of many avenues we use to reach out to our industry partners, and we invite you to engage with us in other ways, including through joining our Interact community, reading our quarterly newsletter, the IAE Digest, and to consider participating in our focus groups, which you'll hear more about later today. First of all, for those who may be less familiar, I wanted to share what the Integrated Award Environment, or IAE, is. IAE is a presidential e-government initiative managed by GSA that oversees the operations and modernizations of 10 federal award management systems. At IAE, we seek to use innovative processes and technologies to improve the systems and operations for those who award, administer, or receive federal financial assistance, contracts, and intergovernmental transactions. IAE is governed by the Award Committee for E-Government, or the ACE as we call it, and is co-led by the Federal Acquisition Service and IT groups within GSA. IAE has a broad scope with 3.4 million users across our 10 systems. In SAM alone, we have 1.8 million entity management records, 538,000 of which are active registrants. In fiscal year 2014, more than $1 trillion in federal assistance and awards across 3.3 million transactions were reported in IAE systems. IAE systems average more than 500 million hits or page views each month, and SAM averages almost 1.25 million searches per week. Right now, IAE is in the midst of a large-scale modernization effort that will offer great benefit to our users. As part of this effort, we are creating a single foundational common services platform that will allow for faster delivery of new software, cost savings, shared security, increased software quality, and data integration across IAE systems. We will be building user experience-driven applications on that common services platform. This approach allows IAE to focus on meeting business needs rather than the plumbing of the platform, and will allow us to prototype software with our users more frequently to ensure we are delivering a positive user experience as we build our modernized environment. At the conclusion of our modernization effort, IAE's 10 standalone systems will be consolidated into one streamlined environment under the banner of sam.gov. This modernized environment will act as our data factory or app store and will offer many benefits to our users, including single sign-on, unified built-in security, open data, APIs, standardized authentication and role processes, and standardized tools and business rules. As IE works to modernize our environment, we are committed to delivering a positive user experience. For those of you less familiar with web development, user experience, or UX, focuses on having a deep understanding of users, what they need, what they value, their abilities, and their limitations. UX is part of IAE's architectural principles, which are a technical response to the business drivers that affect the IAE program and the stakeholders we serve. This particular principle is to provide an effective user experience for all stakeholders. As I hope you've gathered by now, this is a principle that we value highly. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Emily Gartland to share more with you about how we are gathering user input and how we are putting it to work in creating a positive user experience as we work continuously to improve our environment.
All right, thank you, Eric, and hello, everyone. Emily Gartland here with IAE User Experience. I am excited to share with you today how we've been collaborating with our stakeholders and working towards a common goal of building a user-centric award environment. Also, I wanted to extend a special welcome to those of you who I recognize from participating in focus groups and other user engagement. Thank you for joining us today. So to set expectations for your time here with us, here's a story of what we'd like to discuss today. We'll tell you about our journey to identify the people we need to engage and consider, and why it's important that we find those people and connect with them. We'll show you the vast and various perspectives we're working with, and what those people are asking for in a practical application of user research within the Agile development methodology. You'll get to meet our personas. The fictional characters they're representing are very real users who we refer to constantly in design and development decisions. We aim to show you today how your involvement could impact our development. When we first decided that IAE needed to focus around providing a better experience for people who use our systems, our first big question was, who are we building the integrated award environment for? If we're trying to be user-centric, who are we centering around? We asked ourselves, why do these applications exist in the first place? Federal regulation tells us, for example, that some of the applications specifically exist to measure and evaluate spending across the federal acquisition community. They exist to tell us where and how federal money is spent and what opportunities are available. Some of our applications exist to increase industry participation and assist various categories of small business in obtaining awards. Ultimately, the federal regulations that govern our systems are in place for the benefit of the public to establish community-wide federal spending practices that are good for our economy, that are fair and open, and that are good for the general citizen. This is why our applications exist. So the next question towards who is the environment for is who actually uses our applications. We have millions of users with a wide variety of jobs to do, from one-person businesses to vendors with billions of dollars in revenue, from federal and state government officials to small nonprofit agencies. Some of our users have 20-plus years of experience with federal acquisitions, and others just won their first government contract. Some people spend a lot of time in our systems and follow well-established procedures. Others come into our systems only a few times a year and have to get reoriented each time. With so many user types, and considering the purpose of our environment is for the good of the public economy, who is the integrated award environment for? Our answer is to balance both, the goals of the public and the needs of the wide variety of system users. We are building user experience, and our goal is a simple solution that A, reflects the value our applications provide in bringing a level of broad, community-wide transparency to federal spending, and B, thoughtfully considers the people that interact with our systems and help them save time, reach their goals more easily, and realize more value from their individual and collective efforts. We'll get back to the particulars of who our users are in a moment. I wanted to level set with what is UX to us. The look and feel of an application is definitely an important part of user experience, but there's more to it. Yes, we want to minimize the number of mouse clicks for an operation, to simplify the layout of our applications, to make our systems more user-friendly. This diagram shows how usable, findable, accessible, those are all pragmatic, practical attributes of user experience. But we're equally focused on the hedonic attributes, how you feel about the application, rather than what you can do with it. We're asking the tough questions on how can we make the award environment more credible, more valuable, both in perception and in actuality. I'd like to focus on the attribute in the center, valuable. In talking with people who populate the data of our applications, we quickly discovered that a significant number of people enter data into our systems in addition to maintaining records in the systems in their own organizations. Supporting accountability across the federal government, which is what they do in the IAE systems, is a layer of administration on top of the accountability they have in their jobs. These individuals interact with the award environment motivated by their high work standards and the integrity of the office they belong to, even in spite of feeling detached sometimes from the purpose of our applications. Often they don't feel connected to the value they are helping to create. They haven't spoken with the contractor or the policymaker on the other side of the data they are entering. They don't know how incredibly valued their information is. So we listened, and we are aiming towards a user experience that allows them the clarity of purpose for their data entry. People have asked us for more insight into our application's content and purpose. They want to know how to resolve issues related to their work using our content. In building the user experience for the integrated award environment, we want people to know the meaning behind the data fields, how they and their colleagues can interpret and use our vast supply of award data to connect users through the value they are creating for each other. Can I please ask you to mute your phones? Thank you. All right, so who have we talked to? We've taken a couple of different approaches in talking to users thus far. We've held a series of focus groups for 5 of our applications, ESRS and FSRS, CFDA, WDOL, and FedBizOps. And these focus groups gave us a foundation for our user analysis. Then we followed up with interviews to go further in depth and to learn people's stories. For example, we have shared screens with people, and they've walked us through how they find wage determinations in WDOL and how they create program descriptions in the FDA. They have shown us the reports they need and walked us through the data formatting they find most useful to meet their data goals. They have told us how they combine the award information in FPDS and FBO to create a stronger basis for evaluating upcoming opportunities. We've talked to contracting officers in Djibouti trying to help local businesses register in SAM. We've talked to representatives of state government, largest recipients of federal grants. We've talked to congressional research staff and small business advocates. We've talked to universities about finding research opportunities and administering awards. We've been building a base of user stories to really understand these people in the context of IAE. We collect, organize, and disseminate so that our development teams can build for empathy to our users. So how do we get these people's stories? When we talk to them, we encourage them to imagine how our applications might look to them in a perfect world. We share that we are seizing the opportunity to redesign the award environment from the ground up and link data between our applications in a meaningful way. We ask them to think about their work environment, who they work with and how. what pressures they are under, and what goals they are set out to accomplish. Because this is a complete rebuild, and technology has changed a lot since most of our applications were first built, and because expectations are high for website interaction these days, we have an important opportunity for user experience. We have a chance to build valuable connections between entity, award, performance, solicitation, and other data. We have a chance to change the way that people are modeled in the environment, how we determine what people can see and do, how they keep track of their work, and how they are able to connect and to work with others. We have a chance to think big, and we want those big ideas to be driven by the people who use the systems. Now, we don't live in a perfect world, and we do have real constraints, but we wanted to capture what people consider ideal to guide our direction and to measure our achievement against it. So what have we heard from our users? First, I wanted to say that every voice we've heard is important, and it is used to help form our picture of what people would like to see. We are very appreciative of the support and dedication we have received from the people we have talked to and who have told us their stories so far. In starting this journey, I wanted to mention that we knew that IAE has a staff full of knowledge of federal acquisition, people who are experienced users of our systems and who have been involved in supporting these applications. So we went into the user engagement sessions with some information about what needed to change. We knew single sign-on was important. We knew we had to improve search. The people we talked to provided us an affirmation of what we knew and a wealth of specific detail on how they search, what they want to filter by, what reports they want to run, quantities and formats of data they'd like to export from the site, other systems they reconcile data against, and who they want to connect with across organizations, businesses, and agencies. Over the course of many conversations, some themes started to develop. This list here contains an example of ideas that we've heard from multiple focus groups and for multiple applications. Some ideas, such as consolidation of reporting, require policy discussions and perhaps modifications of federal policy. Items such as more seamless integration of geographical information need to be evaluated and prioritized by our business team, and then our governance organizations. For others, such as Dashboard, we have purchased tools that are a part of our common service platform, and we're now evaluating how to integrate them. In all cases, we are advocating for the ideas that people give us. We consider our role to be listeners, to hear and capture what people tell us, to organize it, and to disseminate people's stories appropriately to IAE's strategic drivers. So now I'm going to introduce you to our personas. So talking about what we do with the information that people give us. We have shifted through the data multiple times at this point, analyzing it from a lot of different angles. And one of our earliest objectives was to build personas to represent our user community. Our personas communicate who exactly are the people we are considering as we prioritize requirements and design features. Each of our personas represents a broad group of users. We derive them by synthesizing the input from numerous people who appear to have similar goals and behaviors with the systems. We have a large and diverse user community, so our personas are simplified versions of the people they represent. They give us, the core team, the UX team, the developers, and everyone working on the project, a useful view of our users. Personas highlight common interests of the people they represent. Personas give us a way to tell stories about users so that we can create best-case scenarios. We ask ourselves, what would Rebecca want here? What does Julian need out of this feature? Wanted to mention that a single persona might actually represent an entire group of people who have variances, and we do account for them. For example, you will see a persona for financial assistance recipient on our list. Financial assistance recipients include state governments, universities and hospitals, tribal governments, local governments, nonprofits, and individuals. With an organization like a university, one person might be responsible for pre-award activities, and another might be responsible for administering awards. We don't ignore these differences. We document them, we make people aware of them through use cases and persona artifacts, and we thoughtfully consider how to apply personas to features. But in adapting best practices in persona development for IAE, we kept our personas very broad. The neat thing about personas we identified in this case for the IAE is that, like real people, they use multiple applications, and the viewpoint we captured is approach the environment all together, not just one application. What you'll see are holistic representations of user groups, telling us, how does Amy interact with both FBO and CFDA? How does Julian use SAM, CPARS, and WDL? This allows us a big picture perspective, and we can shape our whole environment around that type of cross-application user. So some of the personas that are currently in the works that you won't see here include application integrator, those who manage contract writing systems, and policymakers, which are relating to IAE systems. And I wanted to just mention that if any of you in attendance have input to offer on application integrator or policy personas, then by means, please get in touch with us. So for those that are listed here, and I'll go ahead and set expectations, I'm going to show 3 slides, so 9 personas. And just quickly, I will show you a highlight of an exemplary concern of that persona, and then explain how that will drive the award environment. Rebecca is our contracting officer. She uses almost all of the IAE systems, including FBO, FPDS, the subaward systems, past performance, SAM, WDOL. Because Rebecca's work touches so many different parts of the award environment, we're referring to her stories to help drive the way we connect information across our environment, the way we link entities to past performance information, the way we link opportunities to awards, and agencies to opportunities. Julian is our small business owner. He has limited resources to identify new business, and we use his stories to drive the way that people will search for opportunities. Amy is responsible for compliance and system administration for a federal agency. She controls who has access to records within her organization and the department that falls underneath it. She monitors her organization and runs standard reports to identify missed deadlines, to evaluate compliance rates, identify data quality issues, and other performance-related issues. We will be using Amy's stories as we are building our dashboard capabilities. Paul is our Federal Finance Coordinator who creates and annually updates the descriptions, projections, and achievements of a large number of financial assistance programs currently using CFDA. This process requires data entry, reviews, and approvals, both at the agency and O&B levels. Paul's stories will be used to drive the workflow experience for the award environment. Craig Wallace represents vendors, any vendors other than small business. Craig represents pre-award users who focus on business development, as well as administrative users who focus on reporting compliance. Entity management is one of the areas where Craig will strongly influence our systems, as we're looking at the needs of businesses that regularly buy, sell, and manage a large number of entities. Heather represents congressional staff members and many other types of researchers who are looking for aggregate information and trends across the environment. She will influence our cross-application and geographic reporting capabilities. Shivani is our financial assistance recipient, and I mentioned previously the diverse groups of recipients she represents. Shivani will drive subaward reporting, specifically FFATA reporting on the grant side, and we're continuing research on this process with state agencies this fall. Jonah represents foreign entities, and Jasmine represents public users, and both of these are current works in progress. We have been looking at the unique needs for registering foreign entities in SAM, which Jonah will represent. As an outward-facing environment with a lot of publicly available data and features, as a system that serves public interest, we need to know how Jasmine will consider the overall message and branding and impressions of our award environment. Jasmine will help us to ensure a sense of trust, professionalism, and ease of access to public information. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit here and give a big picture and also dive a little bit deeper into how we're using the information we gather from user engagement. Earlier in our presentation, we talked about user experience and how our UX more than skin deep to create a true value in system interactions. Getting just a bit more technical now, since we are an Agile development shop, we'll discuss the areas and levels of decision-making where user input is an influence and just how ingrained user input is in IAE's work. The diagram on the left here is a drawing by user experience designer and strategist Jesse James Garrett, describing the elements of user experience. We read the diagram from bottom to top, starting at the bottom with the strategy layer. This is where we look at our objectives, the purpose and value of systems, and we determine who our users are and what they need. Here on the strategy level, we balance the policies which initiate and govern our environment alongside the needs of the people who use it. Strategic input from users at this level is considered, such as big picture suggestions to consolidate reporting or to create an enhanced bid module to support contract proposal submissions. So the next layer up is where we determine the scope of what we're building from one release to the next. The functional specifications, what features we will provide, and the content requirements, what content we will include, are here at this level. At each level of this diagram, we're mining our raw data from user engagement to identify relevant inputs. And on this level, the scope level, what features people are asking for is what we're discussing. Here we consider suggestions such as providing a comments feature for users when they're updating financial assistance programs, which allows reviewers in the financial assistance program to ask questions and get clarification before they review a program. In the next layer up, we define the structure of our systems, and we validate that it will support the features that people have asked for. Our information architecture must support the volume of data that people want to export and the links between informants, such as linking to performance data. The interaction design must align with the way that people need information and want it represented and formatted. For example, users have requested text fields to be replaced with structured data fields. Here we look at how users are modeled in the system and their relationships to the organizations they work for. What happens when responsibilities transfer from one person to another, for example? We need to make sure that our information model supports and enhances user relationships. The top two layers are the skeleton and the surface layer. You can see that here, it's not until we get to this point that we consider anything visual that you will see on the web page. Information design is where we consider how to present the data so that it's easy to interpret. Which fields are important to our users? How much information goes together on the same page? What should we highlight? Should we display something as simple text or as a graphic? Site navigation is here. We design behaviors of the interface components as part of the skeleton. At the highest level, the surface, we're getting user input on this as well. We're looking at the style of the website, how we will brand the website, such as logo and color, and how we will use white space or negative space, images, and fonts. So looking at this whole graph, the user experience graph, you can see how imperative it is for us in IAE to incorporate user input on all levels of development decisions. Another perspective of user engagement relevancy, here I want to quickly loop in all of this UX talk with something you might be more familiar with, the Agile methodology. It is a modern trend of efficient development which IAE has embraced, more specifically the Agile development for enterprise-level systems called Agile at Scale or Scaled Agile. With Agile, we are iteratively delivering small pieces of functionality and building the environment incrementally. With Scaled Agile, we're breaking those iterations into 3 levels, and you'll see those here, right, portfolio, program, and team. At the portfolio level, we're looking at long-term strategic planning and loosely defining where we're headed. Here we're talking about strategic value of providing single sign-on, discussing whether we should have a bid module, who benefits from it, and what value it needs to provide, and what policy changes would be required to support consolidation of reporting. At the program level, and these are just examples, we're looking at the features that fall into the scope of a quarterly release, what dependencies need to be considered, and how we prioritize user features, looking at how each feature adds value and who benefits. At the team level, we're looking at the details of feature planning, basically just 2 weeks in advance throughout our sprints, and considering what behavior people expect out of a feature. This is where the look and the feel, the number of mouse clicks, and the fine-tuning of action happens. In iterative, rapid user testing, we make those choices. Another nifty way to demonstrate how we are doing iterative nature of user engagement is to show the Deming Cycle. You guys might be familiar with it, the Plan, Do, Check, Act. Here we can show the cyclical nature of how we plan, analyze user input, define features, and schedule work, how we do or execute, create wireframes, prototypes, and working software, and iteratively in an agile way, we collect feedback prior to moving forward, going back to our users and making sure that we're meeting the original need. This activity is cyclical and it keeps us very busy. And then on the next slide, you'll see that we have this same Deming cycle displayed. It's kind of putting everything together. You can see the plan, do, check, act at a scaled portfolio, program, and team level. At the bottom team level, following 2-week sprints, we might have a new wireframe or prototype functionality to show in a lightweight, targeted user feedback session. At the program level, we are building more robust user acceptance testing plans for quarterly software releases. We ask people to interact with the actual beta testing environment for quarterly releases, and we provide feedback on that experience to enhance the systems at that point. For long-range direction at the portfolio level, we research and analyze what people need from a strategic point of view, discussing upcoming policy changes, assessing value of big-picture enhancements, and then discussing these with stakeholders. So here is a visual of the development process in light of UX work. And there isn't one splash of color on this slide that doesn't reflect a need for user interaction, either through gathering your input or having users review and test what we create. We are so appreciative of the given feedback that we've had so far. It's been used to evaluate data models, to craft wireframes, to create messaging. Every piece of input is taken seriously. We are always looking for key informants, heavy users of our systems who are willing to engage with this, potentially through those 2-week interactions in our sprints. And so we wanted to highly encourage any of you who have not participated or who are not on our list of user engagement to please get involved. As you can see here on this slide, there are a lot of different aspects of what we're doing that you could help us out with. All right, so that concludes the base of the presentation. Here's some contact information. The best way to contact the user experience team and to get involved is through the email iaeoutreach@gsa.gov. And I encourage all of you to join the IAE Interact community. It's an online community where you can check out what we've been up to. You can sign up for updates, receive updates about future events such as industries like today. And you can also sign up for learning about the goings and the schedules and everything that we have to share with our users and our stakeholders. So thank you all so much for listening, and now I'm going to open it up for Q&A. And if you guys have questions but you're not really sure how to phrase it yet on the phone, I guess you guys are not really on the phone. All right. If you could please just type your chats into the your questions into the chat window, we will approach them that way. If you give us just a moment, we're going to read some and get ready to answer your questions. And if you do have a question that you type in that does not get addressed in our Q&A here, we will be sharing the answers afterwards.
I'm not sure if everyone can see the question, but the bottom line is the date. I'm not going to read the whole question, but what specific steps is GSA taking to complete and reliable data? Question, because the perception and the reality is that the data that's in our systems currently is not complete and reliable. Fortunately, that's somewhat of shooting the messenger in the sense of the data that we get, we're the holders of the data. We don't put the data in the system here at GSA. That's up to the contracting officers, the entities that register, and other government and vendor partners that enter the data in. The new system will have edits and the capability to ensure that if we're looking for a 6-digit number, that of course it'll be a 6-digit number. But if somebody types in the wrong 6-digit number, I really can't help that from a GSA perspective. There will be lots, of course, interfaces and APIs so that the data coming in will be more automated. So the contract writing system, for example, that a department uses will feed automatically into FPDS like it does today. And so with the new environment, that'll help as well. But in general, it's hard for GSA to be the enforcer, if you will. We just manage and operate the system. We can't really ensure that people are inputting it correctly, I guess is the best way of answering that.
Yep, and to add to that, that's a very that's a good response in general, and thank you, Eric. And then from the user experience perspective, the only thing that I wanted to add at this point is that when we are creating data entry options, something that we're going to be doing is helping users to really understand what they're supposed to enter into data fields in order to reduce the ambiguity. And this is a user assistance type of thing that is more available in modern systems. So we're helping users to walk through their data entry, and especially if you have someone who's new to a position, they might be entering the wrong data just because they don't fully understand what they're doing. And we're also trying to have explanations of federal